And what are you doing there, Jeff? You're blinking, but your camera is not well connected somehow for some reason, in some way.
That was weird. It kept switching back and forth, right? I went to settings for a second. I don't know why that happened. Yeah.
That was probably Pegasus getting in there and mucking around with you.
Well, gotta get to some Wi-Fi to update this thing. Yeah.
Oh, you haven't updated yet?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this one is updated. It keeps prompting me to upgrade, but it's updated.
Oh, that.
But now I'm tethering because I can't get online. Yeah.
Hey, Charles, long time no see.
Hey, Charles, how are you?
So yeah, that's what I heard finally. I'd heard, from Mike, and that there was a major security update that was out for the Apple, the iPhones, iPads, and for the Macs also. And I finally heard today what it was. It was that the Israeli, what is it, the Mossad or whatever, had discovered a vulnerability in the Apple operating systems to be able to plant Pegasus spyware on iPhones and Macintoshes and so on.
Yeah, I heard that too. Spyware, which is something we want to stay away from. Yeah.
I mean, I'd heard about the Pegasus and so on a long time ago, but this special vulnerability that they just discovered on the iPhone and Mac operating systems, that I hadn't heard of until just really today.
Right, I heard it yesterday for the first time.
Yeah, okay,
last night.
Yeah,
but that's just you got to keep updating your things, right?
Yeah.
And my wife has Macs, and she's not good about updating because she doesn't really care. So I told her that she needs to get on with it, right?
Pegasus, yes, the winged flying horse. That's right. Yeah. Yep, exactly. Pegasus.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pegasus makes. I'd much rather have a Pegasus than a unicorn.
Totally.
I mean, unicorns might look cool, but Pegasus, I mean, yeah, you can fly, man. I mean, go for the Pegasus.
Totally.
Or maybe
it'd be cool.
A hippogriff would be just as good, I guess.
Yeah, I like Pegasus. Yeah. Unicorn, all you have is that cone on your head.
Right. But the hippogriff.
What can you do with that? Yeah.
Pegasus was the last unicorn. So a hippogriff, half eagle, half horse, so you got the Pegasus, plus you got an eagle's beak on there, so you go into battle or something like that, somebody messing with you have the hippogriff bite their head off. That would be handy too. And the great horned bear. Yeah.
And the great, horned bear was cool. Exactly.
Yeah.
Indeed. Alrighty. What we got with the Unicron, right?
Unicron. Everybody needs a Unicron.
Your camera's off. You know that, Dan?
My camera is off. My camera is off. Oh, there we go. Just round and round, ring around the rosy here. There we go. That's what I was trying for.
There you go. Yeah, Dan, are you still doing the feud game?
The feud game. I tell you, I would love to do the feud game, but the last 3 times in a row that I did it, I had a total of about 5 players,
mm-hmm.
Between the 3 times. I don't know what happened, but it's been about a month ago now that just all of a sudden my audience dropped off, and this philosophy, layman's philosophy, it doesn't matter whether anybody watches it or not. I can still, we can still talk about philosophy, but if nobody's there to play the feud game, it's not even a broadcast. So
I guess that's true,
playoffs.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
You need somebody to play actually, or else it's kind of not interesting, and you end up playing by yourself, right? Kind of, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh no, Takara.
Yeah. No, Takara, I haven't seen her in a while. Yeah.
I've seen a couple of her come up like at midnight my time.
Or
something like that, or early mornings. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Oh, there it is. This is what I was looking for. I thought I saved this. This is one that I was gonna do. I got the layman's philosophy going here, but this was one that I was gonna do. It's 201 best movie trivia questions and answers.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, this works if you've seen a lot of movies, but
haven't you seen a lot of movies?
In my day, I have. There's some modern ones I haven't.
Yeah. Well, most of these are fairly old. Not too many. At least, I mean, the ones that I just was reading through the questions here a little bit. Here, like, what is the name of Rudolph's dad?
Rudolph's dad? Oh gosh, that's right. Rudolph did have a dad.
All right, Charles. What's the name of Rudolph's dad?
Come on, Dad. Come on, Charles.
She's back. She took a break from Haps. Okay, well, welcome back to Kara. Good, yeah. So Rudolph's dad. Anybody know who Rudolph's dad is?
Oh my gosh! There was a great Christmas video, Rudolph, with the claymation Rudolph. Do you remember that? Which told the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Was it Donner? It might have been Donner.
It was Donner. Yep, it was Donner. Absolutely. I like this. You can just click on this, and it shows the answer right there, right on the page. You don't have to bounce around. Just show the answer there. Okay. All right. Here's one that
you can see it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I could see it from here. I can.
Let's see. Maybe I can. Let's see. Window, zoom. There we go. I can zoom. No, that's just zoom. Where's
that's
the view?
Okay. It's okay. Yeah, as long as you have the answers.
Zoom in. I can zoom in a little bit here. One more. All right. That's you still can't read that probably, but anyway. So what was the name of the rabbit in the magic hat in Frosty the Snowman? I guess these are like Christmassy,
right? Yeah. Frosty the Snowman. The magic hat?
The name of the rabbit that was in the magic hat in Frosty the Snowman. And that there was an animated Frosty the Snowman, and they found a magic hat. Supposedly, I think it was a magician's hat, and there was a rabbit inside this magic hat, right? Anyway, that's the story. Hocus Pocus, that was the answer. Remember.
Really? Okay. Charles, you should do that. The fact or fiction game.
Let's see. So, Dan, I offer your name up as someone who might be down for an alcohol tasting with food in October. Absolutely. Alcohol tasting. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it could be good. I'm more or less a beer and tequila guy now. I've gone through different iterations in my life. Beer has always been there, and like different kinds of beers now. I've got into the craft beers, especially the IPAs and so on, but other things. Yeah, I used to be a big bourbon drinker, but now it's tequila. Beer and tequila are my things.
Tequila.
Yeah, there you go. Disney movie trivia. Here you go. You've seen Disney movies, right? In Peter Pan, in order to fly, all you need is a little faith, trust, and what else, according to Peter?
Magic dust, isn't it?
That's right. Pixie dust, I believe. Yeah, pixie dust.
Pixie
That's
dust.
right. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, Tinkerbell's a pixie, right? She's not a fairy. She's a pixie, right?
That's right.
In Finding Nemo, Dory suffers from what?
Don't really remember.
That's pretty good, Jeff. Short-term memory loss.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, these are if I need to kill time sometime, I've got this whatever it is here.
The movie trivia questions.
Yep. But for now, since this is advertised as Layman's Philosophy, let's go ahead and do some Layman's Philosophy. What do you say?
Sure.
All right. So here's one. Which is more real, mind or matter?
Wow, that's a good one. Yeah. Well, seeing as how we are not sure if matter actually exists, I would say mind, huh? Yeah, you sent me that link from Big Think.
Right.
Which I do subscribe to. I saw that come up on my feed, that particular one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's quite a common question lately, right? And I think, yeah, I wouldn't even say mind, really. We're not sure what is actually real or not, are we? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was curious. So you've got the
right. Is reality real? Some neuroscientists don't think so, right?
Yeah. I mean, the neuroscientists and it's my opinion also. We absolutely are incapable of knowing objectively what is real. Because everything, like I've said before, everything that we are, that our awareness has, awareness of everything that we, that we can understand is filtered through our senses, right? Which, but on top of that, it's also.
But would you call that mind?
Yeah.
Filtered through our senses.
Oh, I mean, our senses are not mine. No, that's but so I guess the locus of our consciousness, the whatever it is that is us, that is aware of its surroundings, is, like I said, only aware of our surroundings first in a limited way because of our physical senses that put a limit on the type of input that we can make use of, and then but also it's manipulated because of, for example, our past experience, which is one of the things the guy was talking about. So for example, if you walk down a street or you walk into a room or whatever, and on the walls, right, the walls of the buildings or the walls of the room and so on, you see a lot of graffiti, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And that graffiti is a lot of, for example, objectionable, racist or sexist or anything, very strongly emotion provoking graffiti is on there. You just walk into it and you visually encounter that, and because your mind already processes that the information beyond just the wavelengths of the colors and so on, your mind extrapolates beyond that, so
processes the hard objects too.
Right.
Yeah.
But so
but is that reality? Yeah.
Is that reality? I mean, it's an aspect of reality. So that's just it. I mean, my feeling is,
exactly.
It's an aspect of it. We can't, we don't understand reality in all its, in all its complexity and so on. What about the senses of our soul? Our soul as
what is
different.
The soul?
Right. Is soul different than mind? Does the soul have a physical locus, or I'm not. And senses of the soul. Does the soul have senses?
And he says we know reality, but actually, do we really? Yeah.
Equally real. We know reality. We know reality. We know reality. I mean, we
We
know.
think we know reality. We think we know something. There's hard objects. I think this is the thing that people have problems with, right?
Yeah.
Right. The hard objects in our lives, right?
Peach
Because
casting.
if
Oh, sorry.
yeah,
Yep. Thanks for dropping by, Charles. Come back again. Yep.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's interesting. He says, I'm totally certain of what is real.
Okay.
Yeah, but some neuroscientists are saying what we think is real may not be. I mean, I think I know what is real. We think we know that these hard objects in our lives are real, right? But they're made of atoms, and there's a lot of space between the atoms, right?
Right, exactly.
Of these hard
And
objects, right?
to me, it's all a continuum. I mean, it's it's like waves in the ocean. I mean, we can identify a wave on the surface of the ocean, and yet, you can't separate that wave from the rest of the ocean, right? I mean, it's all part of it. I mean, that wave has a physical shape, a defined shape that we can measure. We can measure its velocity. We can measure its height. We can measure the volume of the wave, the water, in that wave, and so on. And yet, it's not actually a separate entity from the water itself. And that's the way I feel. We are. I mean, we see our physical bodies as something separate, but they're not, because, like you said, even solid mass. Solid objects have spaces between their atoms, and even within the atoms, spaces between the particles and so on. I mean, everything is mostly empty space, right? It's not the particles itself; it's the empty space between. And so, so the empty space, and we know that the air is not empty; it's full of particles too. But there's spaces between those particles and so on, and within those particles. So it's all just, like I said, it's like a continuum, in the same way that a wave is part of the ocean. We are part of our environment to a certain extent.
Exactly. And then when we look at the quantum world, there's even things below that we're not even aware of, right? Those very, very minute, small things. The quantum world is fascinating.
Yeah.
Because we're not even sure how the quantum world, works, or how it makes up everything that is around us, basically. Yeah, Dan, you can do that. You're going to do a Friendly Feud tournament with prizes?
With prizes. I don't know what kind of prizes I could give, but yeah. I could, do, that's what I could do. That's an idea. Here's something not related to anything. I guess tangentially related to this, the tournament and prizes. But you've heard of NFTs, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So those people that aren't familiar, non-fungible tokens, right? So NFT can be basically anything that's digital, right? And so people have digital artwork and so on, or even novels or short stories and so on. Those can actually, because they're in digital form, they can be used as a NFT and so on. So yeah, that's what I could do. I could actually make and there's a place where you can register, or you can create for free. You can create NFTs.
That's so cool.
Right? So excellent. I could crank out a few NFTs and then give those away as prizes, right? Yeah.
That's really cool. You could do that, actually. What NFT would you make?
Yeah, I don't know. One thing that I could do is, maybe either a short video, or probably what would be more appealing might be just an audio, so people don't have to look at me. An audio recording of me reading something or something. I don't know. I write either a short story, or a poem or something like that. Write an original dirty limerick or something like that.
You giving them away for free as prizes then, huh?
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean that, free NFT. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Why not?
Let's see.
Very
Remember,
cool. Why
HAPS
not?
gold
That is
can
a
be
good idea.
earned in 3,500 to 3,550 gold a month. Broadcast once a week is 500, and daily coins are 50. Right? Yeah. 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 In fact, I haven't been. I've been logging into HAPS just to see what's going on, but I haven't really been watching too many people's broadcasts lately. Like I said, a lot of the people that I used to watch, I haven't seen. I haven't seen Takara, Charles. This is the first time in a dog's age that I've seen you.
Wow. Okay.
A lot of people. So, I used to, give away coins all the time. Even my wife hasn't been broadcasting lately.
Why do you think that is?
Well, about a month ago, or maybe a little more now, there was kind of a kerfluffle when some people were dissatisfied with some of the things that they felt were going on in HAPS, that there were, some inequalities in the way people were being treated, that, on the feed that you've got, and the discover tabs and so on that we have within HAPS, that some people, it's like, there were the haves and the have-nots, and the haves, the people that had already had developed an audience, they were the ones that were being promoted, and the people that don't have an audience were basically being ignored, and they didn't like that.
Gotcha.
Anyway, they just thought that there were inequalities and so on here.
Well, Charles says there are always inequalities. Yeah,
exactly.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's true. There are.
I'm one for working to reduce inequalities. Eliminate is an impossible dream, but reduce inequalities, and
I'm looking forward to when HAPS has a better kind of mobile platform. I like broadcasting live, walking around or doing something, but sometimes it's just very bad quality.
Yeah. I mean, even here in in our offices, I mean, like I'm 8 feet away from the Wi-Fi port, or the Wi-Fi access point here, and yet still, so I know it's not my Wi-Fi, because I can stream Netflix, YouTube, and Hulu all at once, and so there's enough bandwidth coming through the Wi-Fi, so that's not it. I think it has to be something about either HAPS servers or something in between. I don't know what it is, but I often get we've seen this blurriness in the broadcast. That doesn't really make sense to me.
Right. And I had a blurriness problem yesterday. Remember?
Yep.
And then also the past couple of weeks, it's very weird. Sometimes it asks me to log on, or if you're a member, please log on. But other times I just punch it up and I'm on already.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if it's my server here,
Yep.
my network, or if it's HAPS. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, they did change the trending. Yeah, now there's two parts. There's like my trending, or my trending. So it only shows the trending people of the people that you're following, I think. And then there's like everybody who is online live right now.
Where do you find the trending? Is that on Discover, or is that on your profile?
Feed.
Okay, great.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 tabs, right? One is your profile, one is Discover, one is feed, and then the go live, or the the live broadcaster. Yeah.
Right. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Yeah. Next to feed. Okay, thanks, Charles. I'm gonna have to check that out. Yeah. I mean, I would like to be more active. It's just sometimes these small problems, right? They kind of hinder you.
Yep.
Also, another thing is time just goes so fast. I'm busy with other things, and then boom, right? Time just slips away, right? So that's true.
Yeah.
Discover feed and go live. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things that I want to do. I mean, there's books that I want to
Yeah,
read.
sure,
There's books that I want to write.
sure.
I mean, it's just
Yeah,
like, yeah.
man.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm terrible about schedules, right? I
Mm.
just hate to be tied into a routine.
You
Um,
think you are. Yeah.
uh,
I do have a routine. I have a daily routine I kind of like myself, but then other things always come in and throw a wrench into the works.
right.
And it's like,
I
oh,
mean,
can you do this? I need to do this. I got to get this done. Blah blah blah. Right?
yeah,
No, nothing's perfect.
we've talked about the Vlog brothers before, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
right.
Hank and John Green,
Yeah,
and
mm,
it was, who was it? It was John that was talking today. He
yeah.
does a Vlog Brothers video every Tuesday. He's done it every Tuesday for the past 15 years.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. He says that's the
That's
one
so
thing
cool.
that's the one thing that he's been able to maintain, like every Tuesday. He said, even regardless of his physical condition or other things that are going on, he's at least been able to post a Tuesday Vlog Brothers video every week for the past 15 years. But he's an author, right? He's actually a full-time author. I don't know how many books he's written now. He wrote one just recently, maybe.
Fiction or nonfiction? Fiction.
Um, Nonfiction, I guess. Yeah.
Nonfiction. Okay. Yeah. I know, Dan. You say you don't like to be tied down, but dude, you can broadcast. I mean, you can keep going and keep talking like none other. I really think so. Right?
uh, Dave can
Man,
keep
you
going.
can
Yeah.
it just could just keep coming out, right? I
All
reach a
right.
point where I need to stand up and
Yeah. But I mean, so you hear, the people that write for a living say, the key to success, being a successful writer is to have a writing schedule. It's like,
yeah,
the same time, for even if it's only for half an hour or an hour
yeah,
or whatever, every day, just sit down in the same place, at
yeah.
the same time and write.
Well, I wrote a
Uh,
novel, as you know, that was published 2 years ago now, and I wrote another one actually that I've having certain people check out now, right? And I want to send it to the publisher, but I'm still kind of in the process of mingling with it. But my trick is I do things in the morning before the day gets in the way. Sometimes I wake up even early just to write, just to do some writing. Yeah.
mhm, mhm.
Even if it's a sentence, even if it's a paragraph, at least I get something done right on
Mm.
it, right? And so I've been able to do it that way basically. Because if I wait for a free moment in the day, it won't happen. I'm
Right,
that
right.
way. If I like to do things in the morning, I exercise in the morning, right? I read physical books, right, in the morning. Uh, that's why I kind of like a leisurely morning. I can do all these things before the day gets in the way.
Yep, yep, yep. No, that's it.
Writing at
Yeah,
all
that's
hours
it.
of the day, as Charles says, that's great if you can do that. Yeah.
Mm,
I mean, I try to write when I have free time. As I said, things always come up, and if you're working, these things happen.
mm.
So I like to just get it out of the way. At least I can do it in the morning. Right? You should try that, Dan, because you're a morning person, aren't you?
Yeah, but I mean, like, my mornings are like my relaxed time, even more than the evenings. Rather than winding down, I like to slowly wind up, kind of thing.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, I like to wake up, and it's not that I have a low energy level, but I just don't like to be thrust into any necessary activities early in the morning. I mean, the most strenuous thing I want to do is brew a pot of coffee, right?
Yep.
That's about as
Well,
strenuous as I want to
that,
get in the
that
morning.
that's a must for me. I have to do that. But when I'm doing that, then I can start a whole bunch of other stuff, right? And then I don't worry about things, coming to interrupt me. I can
Mm,
just get these things done, right? And then, yeah, in the evening, I'm more of a wind down person.
mm.
So in the evening, yeah, I know a lot of people do write after dinner and whatnot. And, I'm more of a winding down person. So I like
Yeah,
to
for
eat a
me,
long, leisurely dinner and then go to sleep relatively early. I mean, I'd go to bed like 10 o'clock.
Yeah, for me, I think that just during the day, just interacting with the world is when
Yeah,
these ideas come to me. If
sure.
I didn't write them at night, in the evening, but the next morning, a lot of it would be lost. So yeah, to me,
Well,
I
sure.
think I need to write.
If you do get ideas, you should jot them down. And I keep a notepad around with me all the time. I'm old school. I like a note and a pen, right? I
Mhm.
always take notes on paper, right? And people
Right.
tell me, oh, there is such thing as notes now, Marl.
Mm.
You can do it on your iPhone or your iPad. You don't have to carry around a pad of paper.
You've got a portable Zoom recorder there. You could just do
Yeah,
voice messages to
that
yourself.
dude, that is true, man. I should do that.
I've
I should
got
carry
I've
that
got
around.
one. It's I've got one. It's about it's a tiny little thing. It's about the size of a cigarette lighter, just a little bit bigger. It's by Zoom also. Has nice stereo speakers built into it.
Oh
Records
wow.
on a micro SD and so on. Yeah.
Oh, I
Um,
think I've seen those. Yeah, it has two microphones coming out of the top end.
oh,
Is that the
actually, the
one?
microphones are built in. This is really compact.
Wow.
Like I
Okay.
said, it's the size of a cigarette lighter, right?
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
like small. It's smaller than this. This is it's smaller than this.
Wow. Okay. That's
Um,
quite small.
yeah, I've got it at home,
Gotcha.
and yeah, so it has like I said, stereo microphone built into the top of it. It's got a USB interface built into it. You slide it out, you push push it and slide the USB interface out of the bottom, and you can plug it into your computer. It
That's
holds,
awesome.
yeah. You can plug it into line. You can actually do line in recordings. Hook up. It's got of course a earphone jack too, and so on. But
That's
yeah, it's a
great.
great little device, and I don't use it as much as I should. I
Hmm.
need to get into the habit of having it. It's like, why don't I have that now? I need to get that into the habit of having that in my pocket with me all the time. So if I ever want to,
Yeah. Right on. I hear you. Charles says, if you have a smartphone, you have a powerful pocket computer. How true.
yep,
But again, I'm old school still, kind of. I got to try to get with the new school.
yep, yep.
I do a lot. I do write notes on my iPhone, and then I send it to my computer, email, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I have double memory, right?
Yep,
It's a good
yep,
reminder that way. If I have something to do, I send it to
yep.
my email.
Yeah, especially smartphones, the speech recognition now is up to the point. You don't have to type anymore. You can,
Yeah,
just voice dictate, and still have
I
it in
know.
text. It's great.
I know, and it's pretty damn good, isn't it?
Oh, it's very good, very good.
Yeah, it's
Especially
very, very
things
good.
like, Apple, of course, is the one that we're most familiar with, and it just seems to get better. And I think it does. That's got some kind of intelligent learning algorithm built into it, so it gets better at recognizing your voice the more you use it. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
at this point, mine's pretty good. Yep.
Hmm. Hmm.
The rec is
Yeah,
still a problem. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. There you go, man. Let's try to all kind of upgrade and get on with it. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
start the boot. I gotta give myself the boot a lot, right?
Yep.
Right, to kind of get going. What is love?
What is
That's
love?
interesting. Love is a very powerful emotion. Yeah, I think yeah, something if you're in love, when you're in love, that's just an amazing time, right?
Try speaking some.
Yeah, try
Yeah.
speaking of stories and was frustrated. It can get frustrating. That's true. I've tried it. Yeah, and it does kind of get a bit frustrating. But I guess you can always go back and fix things, of course, after it gets on there. Yeah.
Love is letting yourself get tied down. Yeah. Love, yeah, love is when, I mean, as animals, basically, well, I was going to say, love is when you start, love is when you consider, at least love for another person is when you consider their, the effect of some action on them to the same degree as you consider that action's effect on yourself, right? Or sometimes even more so, right?
Yeah.
You take other people's, but
Sure.
then, but so do animals feel love? Because we see animals that seem to exhibit that behavior. an animal, a female, a mother that will protect its young rather than running away and saving their own lives. So is that love?
I think it does. They feel instinctively about it.
So
right?
So it's the instinct of protecting your young, right? Which visually, physically seems to be what we would label as love. So this, the act of protecting your young as an animal mother, is that the same thing as love? So is love
I don't
nothing
know.
more
I
than
can't
that?
ask them how they feel and compare it to how I feel. I can't really ask them, right?
Let's call back the day not
But
wanting to get tied down.
Looks yeah, I know. It looks kind of like it could be. I mean, physically, love does have a dimension on us, right? If you're in love, you can't stop thinking about the person. You're just happy all the time. You're elated inside. Your heart does the flitter flutter, right? And it's just right. Your palms get sweaty. You have to be with this person. You would do anything for this person, right? And that's kind of love when it first happens. Although, interestingly, it dies down, I think, right, that feeling after some time, after you do get tied down, quote unquote, right?
I think
that feeling does die down, right? And then there's other things that come up and kind of take the place of that physicalness of like can't stop to think about your partner all the time, yeah.
Is that the difference between love and lust, or are both those aspects
No,
of love?
No, not lust, not necessarily lust. No, it's just not necessarily, going to bed all the time with someone. This just being around the person, right? Just you can't stop thinking about them. That's all. Yeah. I don't think it's lust. Lust does play into it, but not always lust in that sense, right?
But then again, so love, we're not necessarily talking about man, woman, or whatever, that kind of.
I just use that as an example, yeah.
Right,
because,
but
the physicalness, I'm saying. So I can't ask an animal if it feels that physicalness.
Right. Yeah,
Like
I understand that, but
about the person, etc.
okay,
right?
but what about parent-child love, right? Now there, I would argue that I'm not sure that I ever felt the the sweaty palms and the beating heart and so
for
on.
Your mother? No, of
for
course
my mother
not.
or for my daughter, either one. I mean, there's definite love there, but there, not the sweaty palms and the the perspiration.
You didn't have the physicalness, like, oh my God, this is so excellent, awesome! I can't wait to see my daughter in this sports day event or something. Wow, look what she's doing. No. And you kind of have a flutter over your heart for your kids. I have. I mean, and you're just so proud and whatnot. You're like your heart's beaming. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're so happy. Maybe happiness is the best way to say it. Not happy, pride, really, but happiness. And you're just so happy, and it's just right. Nothing can detract from that at that moment.
Yeah. I mean, happiness at seeing good things happen for my daughter. Yeah. But and not, not, sweaty palms or palpitating, heart palpitations or something like that. I don't think so.
Charles has a good one. Father and son love is different, right?
Right. Exactly.
It is,
absolutely.
Totally. Yeah.
Animals are people
can be
too.
Tough love. Animals are people too. People are animals too.
Yeah. Penguins show love with the pebble they get for their mate. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and we've seen. I mean, a lot of us have had pets, and especially pet dogs, seem to display emotion when their owner comes back, especially if they've been separated for any period of time. I mean that wagging tail, that that desire to jump up and have physical contact with their owner and so on. That at least to most humans, I think at least mimics emotion, if it's not actual emotion.
Yeah, how about that video on Facebook? I'm sure we've all seen where the mother bear is crossing the road, right? A busy street, a busy road, in Alaska or something, right? And the cubs are dawdling behind, and the mother, runs back and gets a cub and pushes it forward, and all the cars stop, right, letting the bear and her young go across the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's obviously thinking of her young, right? Like protecting her young, which I think in that way is sort of equal, right, to having that kind of physicalness. She knows that something's not around her, something's not right,
Mm-hmm.
right, and she has to go back and right push her little baby across the road. Have you seen that on Facebook? It's really cute.
No, I don't think I've seen that particular
Yeah,
clip.
that's a
No.
classic one. Yeah,
Hmm.
and all the cars are stopped, and then she gets most of them across, and then one little cub goes back across the road. She has to go back, and then the other cubs start following her, right? And she has to go back and forth like 5 times, right, getting all the little young across the road, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of, I mean, she knows that they're not all with her, right? And she's some kind of physical feeling. So that's right. That's amazing to me, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's how she's feeling about it, but yeah, I mean she knows something's amiss.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But okay. So these emotions. I mean, I mean, it seems to me that as if we looked at it from an evolutionary standpoint, these emotions developed, in order to be another way to guarantee that we carry on the gene pool, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, so in that way, humans' emotions and animals' emotions really evolved, in the same way from the same basic source. Um, so so
yeah,
does
yeah.
that, so I mean, so they're emotions. They're if we examine them, you know, objectively, if we could, which we can't, but if we could examine them objectively, would they be just one indication of of evolution taking place? They're nothing
Right.
more than evolutionary pressure.
Yeah, right. Sure. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. For us, it's very similar. I think we have the extra dimension of being able to rationalize about it, right? And to think about it. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
in that case, but it's the same. I do believe, right? It's the same, um, right? Biological process for procreation.
Right. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, people generally, uh, have stronger emotions, stronger feelings for people. The feelings tend to be correlated with the degree of shared DNA. Basically, the closer in the human gene pool that other person is to you, right? So
Mm-hmm,
your
mm-hmm.
child or your parent or whatever, the closer that genetic relationship is, the stronger the emotion tends to be, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Sure. Right. Yes. Yeah. Indeed. That's true. Like your blood offspring, maybe. Yeah. In this
right,
case, sure.
right,
Like the mother and her cubs, right?
all right.
There was some
But
kind of physical connection there. Yeah.
you know, listen to the grass scream when you cut it. Yeah.
Yeah,
plants,
indeed.
plants. Oh, absolutely. I believe plants have. That's
Plants have
why.
feelings. They do. Plants have feelings.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
sure,
absolutely. I mean,
sure.
you can go in and yell at a plant every day, and it will wither and die. You go in and speak softly and quietly, and with good emotions, positive
Yeah.
emotions toward a plant, and it will thrive and so on.
Can you
Yep.
see my plants over there? I have many different herbs growing on my windowsill and on the refrigerator, right?
Herbs. You got many
And
different herbs,
and
right? The
plants,
little
Dan, and plants.
plants and
Edible
yeah.
things you put on some food, right? And I have this one little mini garlic plant, right? Or sorry,
Uh,
a mini basil plant, right?
okay.
And I've, on occasion have forgotten to water it, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll come in and it'll be like withered. It'll still be green, but it'll be kind of like, oh my God, withering, right? And I'll give it water, spray the leaves, yeah, and it'll come back to life.
Yep.
Of course, right? Sure. So yeah, they have feelings, and they let you know when you haven't watered it.
Yeah.
Water me, please.
Water me, please. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Give the herbs some water.
Give the herbs
Yeah.
some water. How
Yep.
about this one?
Indeed.
This I say the best till last.
Oh gosh, here we go. A religion and science compatible. Oh. Well, it depends on how far you want to take the religion aspect, right? And what is religion? So I'm going to say no on this, right? Actually,
Okay.
no, because I'm a evolutionist, basically. And why? Because I believe the science.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the science. I tend to side with the science. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that shows, for evolution. I mean, just looking at that aspect, evolution only. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Of course, religion. Many other things come into religion. Belief, right, and looking to something outside you. And that's another thing about religion that I'm not sure I really like. Looking outside you for help or something to guide you, right? Looking outside. Why do you have to look outside you, right? And I know a lot of people are religious because they have a relationship with their creator, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To guide them. But I think you don't have to look outside to be guided. I'm not sure, I mean,
Right.
you kind of go through life. You can, almost learn to guide yourself, right?
Right.
As far as that goes. But
right.
Science, I tend to definitely believe science.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How about yourself?
I'm kind of on the same page with you there. Yeah, I think that religion and science are fundamentally incompatible, not compatible,
Right.
because science is based on reaching conclusions based on, as you said, on evidence, whereas religion, the final appeal to authority is faith, right? For example, how do you know that a religious text, be that the Quran or the Upanishads or the Bible or the Torah, how do you know that those are true?
Yes,
because it says so. Because how do you know the Bible's true? Because the Bible says so.
Bible says so, right?
I mean, it's the ultimate circular argument type of thing, which is not appealing.
And then,
at all
somebody
to me.
wrote the Bible. Somebody took notes and wrote it down, right?
Well, that's it. They were just taking notes. God's the one that dictated it, right?
I guess so, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. God dictated that. Somebody was just, the prophets, they were just the secretaries, taking, writing it down there for them.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. How factually do we know that that's true or not?
I mean, think about it. It makes sense. It makes sense because if God writes it himself, it's going to take forever. Because look, you remember the 10 Commandments. How long was Moses up on the side of that mountain and he came down and he only had 10 sentences? I mean, geez, if you're going to write the Bible, how long is it going to take God to do that? If it takes him that long to write just 10 sentences.
Yeah, sure.
You got to have a secretary with some good typing skills there,
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, somebody's gonna rip me apart when they see this.
Yeah, probably.
How blasphemous can you get there?
Get ready, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right. And how about people who say, "Well, God spoke to me, the other day, and I changed my life according to that conversation." Or that experience, right?
My answer to that is what you were talking about before. Why do you need this appeal to some outside authority, right? You listen to something, you listen to your own quiet inner voice, which is, the collection of your thoughts, that you have accumulated, the collection of the data and the inputs that you've accumulated up until that point in your life. And that, now your mind has weighed these things and has come to a conclusion that is different than what you have been behaving on up until then, yeah, there's no need to appeal to, to that being God's voice. I mean, it's just not necessary.
Right. I agree totally. That's how I feel too. That's how I look at it. Absolutely right.
Yep.
And then but some people say they heard it. It wasn't a thought. It was like a crystal clear voice. They actually heard the voice, right? It's almost schizophrenic in a way, isn't it? Because
yeah, I would say
hear voices. Yeah.
That's another thing that we don't really know because we didn't have, that, advanced science back then. But, these prophets, I mean, how many of them, if they had been, examined, by, today's, methodology, psychological, psychiatric methodology, how many of them would have been, determined to be schizophrenic? Yeah, I mean, they're hearing voices from God and so on. I mean, yeah, if somebody says that today, they end up in the loony bin, or on medications of some type.
Yeah. Indeed,
so it's
indeed right.
The fact that there are no more prophets, that this is an ancient thing that happened. I mean, the last one, whenever, I guess Muhammad was one of the last. But the reason that is, no longer happening is because, now if people say, like I just said, now if people have to make the same claims, then they're obviously crazy, right? So it's society, it's culture that has changed. Yeah.
Right. And where does that come from? Science. Right.
Yeah. There you go. So science
has discovered there's other things going on. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. In the brain.
Yeah.
As it were.
Yeah. But yeah, I have a lot of problem with science. Actually, I have a lot of problems with science because the science is, the science as a methodology, I am totally on board with. Right? I mean, you look at things, you gather. You gather evidence. You make a hypothesis. You gather evidence for, or that relates to that particular hypothesis, and see if the hypothesis stands up, and so on. Right? That all makes sense. That methodology makes sense. The trouble I have,
scientific process, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So as a methodology, as a process, it's cool, right? But practically speaking, I think it's got all kinds of problems. So. Because of the way things, because of the way things have developed, scientists, anybody in education at all, in research or education, the requirement to publish, right? Hello, Abyss, right?
Hey, Abyss.
The requirement to publish, I think, is a double-edged sword. I mean, it's important. We want this new information out there,
right? But when humans come into it, there's a lot of things that aren't accurate, I think. Yeah. The scientific process says that the scientific, for example, studies should be able to be replicated, and the same results should be able to be found. Yeah.
Right.
And I've heard recently a lot of studies, that isn't the case.
Exactly. Right. And people have a hypothesis, right? And they set out to prove that hypothesis. And if the data that they collect doesn't support their hypothesis, you're probably not going to see that research published anywhere, right? You don't see a lot of, we tried to find this, but hey, it didn't work. Sorry, I mean, how many people?
But that's actually better to say, well, we tried this and it didn't work, than to fabricate something or stretch the truth, right?
Right, but what I'm saying is, you don't see that research. You don't see those papers.
You do. You see them. They are out there. Yeah, you do see them. Of course, no one's going to base their research on those.
Do you have even one example of, we set out to prove this and it didn't work?
In my computer, maybe. Yeah, there's a few PhD students here too who have had that. Right. Of course, no one's going to base their research. They might not get cited, and people use it for further research. A section for further research. Yeah. Can you invite Abyss?
Just done. Just did it. Yep.
Yeah, cool. I'm gonna have to boogie here in a couple minutes, so maybe Abyss can take over.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah, I've seen a couple that they say, right, like, well, we try to do this. Unfortunately, we have some shortcomings. Here are shortcomings, and they use it as a section for further research, right? Which another researcher could actually come along and pick up on that and try to do that.
Yeah.
They are
There's
there,
some, but I mean, yeah, there's some.
but if you
But I would argue that most publications are not even going to publish them. It's like, hey, if you didn't come up with anything, I mean, if you struck out, okay, who wants to read about that? I mean,
well, I think there are some journals who might, depending on the journal, whatever.
Well, I mean, if you, okay, let's continue this another time. I want to see them because I'm not familiar with any journals that have, any. I mean, because I just am not familiar with journals publishing strikeouts. I mean, this deserves further research and so on. This, ask more. That's creates more questions than it answers and so on, right? Things like that. But somebody comes up and says, "Oh, I think this," and says, "Well, I was wrong." That's not the way it works. I was wrong. I haven't read many of those. I can't remember reading any of those actually.
Well, if somebody's obviously wrong and you're going to create more problems than the first researcher started. That's happened too, though. That's happened when people have fabricated things and it has been replicated and it is found out to be wrong.
Right.
There, you're talking about a huge
that
problem.
happens, right? But what I'm saying is, so that person that fabricated that, if they hadn't fabricated that, if they had published that research with the accurate data, drawing the correct conclusions from that data,
well, they couldn't.
That would have never been published. We would have never seen that.
Okay, man. Thanks, Dan. Got a boogie.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Abyss. Is it okay? How are you, Abyss?
Hey, sorry I got disconnected there. Can you guys hear me okay?
Let's see.
Your level's really low.
Yeah, maybe I can turn you up, tap you up a little bit there, give you a little more volume. Maybe that'll help.
I'll look for those articles, by the way, Dan. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see
that. Yeah.
Curious to see.
Sounds good, guys.
All right.
Sorry, I've got so much going on today.
Yep.
All right, Jeff. Yeah, I think you mentioned a very interesting point, which is there aren't so many scientific publications that actually demonstrate the, if they're like, suppose like there is one method which actually has been published to work, there are no corroborating research that actually show if the research actually works or not. And that's a huge flow to the whole scientific community, because those are as important to the original discovery. And those are not taken kindly. Like, whenever, say, for example, if you're trying to investigate something and if you don't find anything, publishing that would be kind of frowned upon, which I think is a wrong thing to do. Because like that would have also its own merit in such a way that it will kind of direct people to not go through the route that you've taken and produce wrong results. Like it has instructive nature to it. So yeah, I think that's some kind of indictment, like a scathing indictment, if I may, to the whole scientific literature, which is always obsessed with finding new things that actually work, as opposed to proving the existing things, which may or may not work. Just wanted to mention that.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Totally agree. Yeah. Yeah. So to me, the way the system works calls into question the research that we do get to read. I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm sure that there's a lot of research that simply isn't published because, as you just said, it's not going to be interesting to a lot of people if it doesn't reach any kind of conclusion except to say, well, this isn't right, and going to be looked on unfavorably, possibly by the institution where that researcher is located, yeah. So the research that we do read, people have this pressure, to publish. And so, I mean, in some ways, one, they're going to be more restrictive in the kind of questions that they ask, because they don't want to go out too far out on a limb, because the chances of that actually, coming, being provable or producing favorable results is going to be less, so they're not going to go there, right? And if they, even in the conservative questions that they ask, if it doesn't turn out right, we're not going to see that either. So yeah, I just see it as a major problem. And I mean, I see the same kind of thing. I mean, actually in quite a different way, I guess, but I am a teacher, and I teach at a university. And the university setting is such that you are expected to do research. And my love is not for research. My love is in the classroom, and the things that I want to improve are on my relationship with my students, my ability to teach them better. And that's not necessarily dependent on my ability to research those things. It's dependent at least as much on my ability to comprehend what other people have researched and what other things that I do, and simply being up to date on current things without actually contributing. And plus, I'm not sure that there's all that much. I mean, there is, it's still, growing and developing, as our knowledge is in every area. But I just think that this focus on research in areas where the benefit of having everybody involved in that area be a researcher, I just don't see that as viable.
Well, I mean, that all depends on your preference, like you just mentioned. I mean, there are some like yourself who are um, willingly trying to go into the profession, trying to educate others as opposed to doing research. But best thing about research, although the practice and the implementation is something to be critiqued, but I think the advantage of doing the research is that you always update yourself. And if you have lecture materials, for example, those will be kept updated based on recent findings, and you're also making active contribution to the whole field, because um, presumably you're like one of the professionals, or at least like one of the academics in that circle that can contribute, or that can potentially make an impact or a dent into the field that you're in. So the critique part that I said is that the Western world, especially like here in the U.S., the whole notion about publish or perish has a lot of strain, even into like a more seasoned um, academicians. So you always are struggling to find grants, and those are really hard to come by. It all depends on how much stuff that you've done, especially like, if you're trying to uplift yourself from like an assistant professor that you just a position that you just secured, which makes it even harder for you to kind of break through, because you won't have enough graduate students. You're all relying on your previous studies. And like I said, the whole grant selection process can be tiresome, and it can be really frustrating to say the least. So that kind of, those kind of things are uh, are kind of frustrating, and they really hold back the level of research. I know Europeans. I mean, the European system, depending on which European nation that you're talking about, because it's hard to generalize. But some European nations have kind of like a more refined approach, where grants can be distributed and sort of like um, in equal proportions to most applicants, instead of like having this competition and winner takes all kind of approach. Um, so yeah, I think it's worth critiquing as to like how effective this, like I said, the publish or perish approach is, because everybody wants to stay afloat, and um, and there are so many constraints. Like I said, if you don't have enough research background, if you're a grad, like if you're just starting your profession and like in the tenure track or something like that, you're probably going to be encumbered with so many constraints that you won't be able to get enough grants at the beginning. So yeah, I mean, it's worth critiquing as to like if that approach is actually true or not, because most academicians believe or think that that's actually unfair.
Mm, mm, yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I find that the amount of time and the distraction away from my other work, that I see as more directly related to my performance in the classroom. That, I mean, as a teacher, that's what I want to focus on. And so that, this requirement for for publications is more of a distraction than it is a benefit to me, I believe. Not necessarily to everyone, but again, the idea that this is kind of a blanket rule. Everybody, I mean, there are more and more here people at institutions of higher learning in Japan. It's almost a requirement that everybody apply for the MEX grant, for this money, and it affects everything. It affects your likelihood of promotion, and it affects your. I mean, whether you apply or not can affect how much research funds you get. Not whether you actually get the grant a grant or not, but if you apply or not. Go through the application procedure. It will affect the amount of research fund that you're given, and like I said, that there it's valuable. Research is valuable, but not necessarily for everyone to the same degree. And so to make that kind of a blanket requirement, I think this shotgun approach is not the most effective way to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think like somehow the value in teaching others is sort of overlooked in a way,
Mm.
as opposed to doing the research. And I completely agree with your sentiment.
I
Um,
mean, I'm sorry. I guess, to a certain extent, doing research is another form of teaching. I mean, you're carefully examining something and then relaying that, in a very succinct form, in the form of that research paper for others to educate themselves, based on what you have learned and put in the paper and so on. So it is a kind of teaching, but it's teaching a different audience than I feel that I signed up for. I mean, when I decided I wanted to be a teacher, it wasn't for me to to teach teachers. I mean, that was not my objective. My objective was to teach these young people, these young students, these college age kids, and help them, in my case, learn English and so on. Not necessarily to, my goal, my motivation for landing this job was not to educate other English teachers. Anyway,
right,
so it's just.
right. Yeah,
Uh,
it does make sense. Although, like, I wouldn't call that teaching the teachers whenever you're publishing. It's more like, um, I don't know, walking someone through your adventure. It's like,
uh,
giving them like a very concise form of, kind of a log book that you had for as long as you conducted the research. So,
mm,
so yeah, in
yeah,
a way, it's teaching. I mean, you're delivering a new information, but yeah, the content actually kind of differs. As opposed to like,
oh
I
yeah.
think it's
Mm,
instructive. Well, it is instructive, but not in the same way as you know a student, as you
right.
mentioned.
Right, right, yeah, yeah, um, yeah. So, yeah, and as we talked about before, um, the fact that unsuccessful unsuccessful research is rarely published. Almost no one attempts to reproduce prior research in order to confirm it and so on. I mean, these weaknesses are glaring, and but people talk about them, but I'm not aware, at least in my area here in Japan, I'm not aware of any moves to really alleviate these kind of concerns that I have. I mean, I guess maybe I should be fortunate that I'm nearing retirement here, that this is not going to be an issue for me very much longer, because to me, it's more frustration than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, you're not alone. That's why I was kind of mirroring what you're saying. In fact, I think there's substantial amount of push to kind of fund these kind of research, which substantiate previous research as opposed to finding a new one, and rightfully so, because if we want to move on and establishing the current findings as axioms, and if we want to build upon those discoveries, it's very important to thoroughly investigate those new bold claims, and that requires another research that actually conducts the same thing and see if the results actually match or not, with with some statistical precision, of course. Yeah.
What was it? Just recently, I was heard someone talk about, it was talking about psychology, which is a difficult topic in a lot of ways. Anyway, but they were talking about, what was it? Talking about people's ability to I can't think of the English word now. All I can think of is in Japanese. Enryo suru, to gaman suru, to resist. Resist doing something. Their ability to resist. It's like the theory has been, or the working theory has been, and what seemed to have been proved in a study years ago, is that people's ability to resist temptation or to declines. So if they're given something that is tempting, and they're told to resist that temptation, and then later something else, they're more likely to cave in.
Right? Is that delayed gratification?
Not exactly delayed gratification. It's your ability to resist temptation declines. It's like it requires energy, and it needs time to build back up. So if you resist temptation for a while, right, and then after that you're given another temptation soon after that, then you're more likely to give in to the second temptation, or something like that. Even though the second temptation might not be initially, if you're both giving them at the same initially, one wouldn't be more tempting than the other. But the fact that you staved off the first temptation, when you're presented with the second one, you're much more likely to give in to it, right? It's like you've been worn down, right?
Right. Huh. That's interesting.
But now, I mean, there's like a whole field of psychology, or a whole subfield or whatever of psychology, using built on that as as an axiom of that, and now they're saying that some people have actually looked at the research, found problems with it, tried to duplicate that research, and haven't been able to. Now they think that is actually a false, maybe a false claim, and so on.
Right. So that's one of the problems with studies that um, that are actually in psychology. I think I may have heard from someone who was doing grad work, and was a grad student in psychology and later on neuroscience, that told me that the shelf life of every psychological study, a breakthrough study in psychology, the shelf life is technically about 5 years. And then there will be another study that will replace it or supplant it to say that that study is you know uh, has some flaws in it or something. So yeah, I guess like it depends. So like because human behavior is kind of difficult to pin down. I think there is no single strategy to to characterize human behavior. Like we're very different from each
Yep.
other.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're different in so many ways, from the physical level to our mental processes, the way we process information and so on, based on the physics of our brain, as well as our past experiences and so on, how we're going to react to a certain thing, how we're going to filter that information and so on. And then on top of all that, the psychology, studying psychology seems to me an impossible task, because as a society, as a species, we continue to evolve and change and so on. That were true, yeah, like you said, things that were true time, simply because of natural, our, as well as other things, is no longer going to be true or not true in the same way and so on. So I mean, it would be an
right.
extremely frustrating field to research in, I think.
Right. I mean, if you actually think back, like um, uh, to sort of like to the earliest forms of psychology, which are now sort of antiquated in a way. You know, if you look at sort of like the Jungian kind of approach to seeing things, which kind of delves into some level of philosophy. Um, um, but one of the things that actually came to my mind is that there are some psychology findings which are found to be sort of immutable over time.
Mm, mm,
And I don't know if you know about um, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. These are famous people in like the decision theory, and they study
mm,
sort of like psychology with sort of like economics. And what they found out was that um, actually they won a Nobel Prize. Amos Tversky died in like in 2000, I think he won the Nobel Prize posthumously. So
mhm,
what they found out was that even though economics actually dictates, or at least like the from economic point of view, that you always think that people actually know what's best for themselves. What these people, like what these two researchers actually showed, that is it's not actually true.
mm,
People don't know what's best for them. They're very much sort of like whimsical in a way, and they
mm.
tend to fall for some basic statistical traps. So those are actually considered to be, if not axiomatic, but somehow sort of like the root establishment to the field, and people are starting to build upon that. So I'm just saying, like, not every study in psychology is thrown into trash or kind of disproven
Mm,
in a way
mm,
after 3 or 4 or 5 years.
mm,
But there are some studies that actually stood the test of time.
mm,
So one example that I can think of was, like I said, Dean Kahneman and Amos Tversky. So if you read Thinking Fast and Slow, um,
mhm,
that was actually written by Daniel Kahneman. He was
mm,
one of the
mm.
authors, and he quotes most of their findings. And yeah, but it's a very interesting read if you want to look into it. It goes into like how we're easily kind of manipulated when it comes to when we're presented with obvious statistical information. Um, that we tend to have like this skewed. We tend to come up with this skewed results. But yeah, um,
Daniel
that's one of the things
Kahneman.
I. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I found it. Okay, great. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, let's see. Oh, I actually found a PDF of it. Haha.
That's an old
Okay.
book I have. Yeah, I have the PDF and audiobook of it. But
Oh, okay. Cool.
yeah.
All right. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. But so going back to that, they were talking also, because of that, they had, recently, discovered that, that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. So now there's a push, at least within some areas of psychology, or some psychological researchers, to actually organize and make a concerted effort to replicate studies. I mean, to make a major push in that area, because there's something that had been taken as a given, later, seemed to have been disproven and so on. So so that, I think that's a good sign, that the people are. I mean, people have always recognized the value of being able to replicate results and so on, but now actually promoting that and openly recognizing the value of that kind of replication. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great catching you live, Dan. I wish I had more time, but I have to drop out. But this has been a very good talk.
Yeah. No, this is good. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I'll try to be here as frequent as I can, but like I said, I may be, and sort of like bracing myself for busy months, like a few months ahead. So,
Okay.
if I'm not live, then I guess you'll have, I mean, there's like enough reasoning as to why I'm not online. So yeah.
Right.
But yeah.
Understood. Yep. Okay. Well, thanks again for dropping in. Do appreciate it. Always your insight is valuable. And watch for me. I try to do this, at this time every week. Sometimes I miss out, but when you can join in, you're very, very welcome. So, and for the rest of you that have been watching and listening, thank you for that. I appreciate that. As I said, try to do this at this time every week, as much as possible. Be continuing that, especially for the next couple of weeks after that. Classes get busy again, and there may be adjustments in my schedule, but I'll do what I can and try and schedule this to let people know, so that you can join in. I really believe that, especially with people like Abyss joining in and so on, the live experience is the best experience. It's still valuable to watch this on the replay, but if you have a chance to watch it live, I definitely encourage you to do that. Okay, so take care.